You know, we usually measure a country's success with just one big number, GDP. But what if I told you there's a much smarter way to look at it? A way to see its real potential? Well, today, that's exactly what we're going to dig into, through the fascinating lens of economic complexity.
All right, let's take Cambodia, for example. Between 1993 and 2022, its GDP per capita grew by a staggering 7.36 times. I mean, that's a massive success story, right? No question about it. But here's the thing. That number, as impressive as it is, only tells us about the size of the growth, not the character of it.
See, that one number, it just can't tell you what Cambodia actually makes. It doesn't reveal the skills of its people or the sophistication of its industries. And to see an economy's true potential for future growth, we have to look a whole lot deeper.
So in this explainer, we're going to dive into a framework that really gets to the heart of an economy, what it makes, what its people know, and most importantly, what it's capable of doing next. I mean, just think about it for a second. Imagine you have $2 billion economies. One gets its money just by exporting, say, crude oil. The other one, it produces this whole range of complex, high-tech electronics. GDP might look at them and say, hey, they're the same, but their potential for future growth? Boof, they are worlds apart. Okay, so to really get our heads around this, let's use a fun little analogy. Think of an economy like you're playing a game of Scrabble. The goal isn't just to make any old products, it's to create high-value products, or in our game, high-scoring words.
Right. In Scrabble, you can't make words without letters. Simple enough. Well, in an economy, you can't make products without what we call capabilities. These are the absolute building blocks, things like a reliable power grid, skilled engineers, specific industry certifications, or even just really efficient port logistics. These are an economy's letters on its Scrabble rack.
And this just lays out the difference perfectly. An economy that's only got a few simple letters on its rack can only spell simple words, right? Like rice. But an economy that's managed to collect this huge variety of diverse, even rare letters, man, it can spell incredibly complex, high-value words like jet engines.
And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. You can see plain as day in the real-world data. On the left, you've got stuff like X-ray appliances and chemical analysis instruments. These things require a huge set of letters. And on the right, you've got raw commodities, crude oil, cocoa beans. They just require way fewer. The bottom line is, the more complex the product, the more knowledge is literally baked right into it.
Okay, so this is all great in theory, but how do we actually visualize all of this? Well, a couple of brilliant economists, Ricardo Hausmann and Cesar Hidalgo, they developed a tool to do exactly that. It's called the product space, and it's basically a map of all the world's products and the letters you need to make them. So, here's how we measure this complexity. It really comes down to two key ideas. First, diversity. Basically, how many different things does a country make? You see the Netherlands there, connected to a ton of products? That's diversity. Then there's ubiquity, which asks how many other countries can make this same product. X-ray machines are not ubiquitous. Very few countries have the letters for those. The key insight, the big aha moment, is this. A truly complex economy is one that's super diverse and makes really sophisticated stuff that very few other countries can. And what this map reveals is a really fundamental truth about how economies grow. You see, countries don't just randomly jump from making t-shirts to making rockets. It doesn't work that way. Growth is what we call a path-dependent process. Economies grow by moving into products that are adjacent to what they already do, products that need a really similar set of those letters, those capabilities.
Okay, let's make that super concrete. So say your country is already great at making shirts. That means you already have a lot of the necessary letters, right? You've got people who know fabrics, you've got sewing skills, you've got textile supply chains all set up. So it's a much smaller leap to start making, say, blouses, which use almost all of those same letters, than it is to just suddenly decide you're going to build microchips. That's a whole different game.
All right, so let's bring this full circle back to Cambodia. How can this whole framework actually guide its journey to becoming a more prosperous, high-income country?
This is where the framework becomes incredibly practical. It stops you from making really bad strategic mistakes. Cambodia can't just wake up tomorrow and decide, hey, let's build an aerospace industry. It's just too many of the letters are missing. Instead, what you do is you look at its current strengths, garments, agriculture, and you identify what's nearby in that product space. And suddenly, potential next steps become clear. Maybe it's electronics assembly that builds on the manual dexterity its workers already have for making clothes, or maybe it's processed food packaging, which leverages its strong agricultural base.
So, the whole strategy is about finding the right stepping stones. You're looking for industries that hit this perfect sweet spot. First, they've got to be more complex than what you're doing now. That's how you get higher wages. But second, they have to be close enough to your current capabilities that it's actually realistic to start them up.
And you know what? This completely reframes the whole role of government and what we call industrial policy. It's not about a bunch of people in a room trying to guess which industries are going to be big in the future. It's about something way more surgical, way more strategic.
The job of the government isn't picking winners. It's about being the provider of the missing letters. So if the market wants to move from making garments to, I don't know, car seats, the government's job is to step in and ask, okay, what's the missing letter here? Is it a specific safety certification for the fabric? Is it a new logistics standard we need? Providing those kinds of public goods, that's what unlocks the next stage of growth.
So there we have it. We have a map that shows a much smarter path to growth. It lets us pinpoint these strategic industries that can really build a nation's wealth and its complexity. But this leaves us with one final, absolutely crucial question. Once you know which industries to target, how do you actually encourage companies to take the risk and enter them? What are the best tools in the policy toolbox to help the private sector make that leap and actually get there?